But good afternoon. Welcome to Business for Inclusion. My name is Lauren Gula, and I'm part of the social sustainability team at the UN Global Compact. And for the past few years, I've been managing our work on gender equality, and in particular, the women's empowerment principles, which many of you may be familiar with. So today's session is meant to be informative, but it's also a consultation. So what you have is the opportunity to contribute to the Global Compact's forward-looking work on inclusion. So I really invite you to be as conversational as you can, to speak up, and to really be part of this conversation. And before I get started, I also want to acknowledge in the room my colleague Tina. Anita was here a second ago, and a few others that will be joining. Sadvi, where are you? There she is, who's working very closely with me on the Business for Inclusion Action Platform, which you will be hearing about. And at the end of this session, if you have any questions, please do come to either myself or my colleagues in the room, and we'd be happy to help. So the preamble to the SDGs emphasizes the need to leave no one behind. And I don't know if I have a clicker here. There we go. And we heard this earlier in the plenary as well. And when we think of the actions that we need to take in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's building infrastructure or, thank you very much, or increasing access to education, how do we make sure that everyone benefits? And I think equally as important is how do we ensure that everyone's empowered to contribute to the global goals, because that's the only way we're going to reach them. And what specific actions can business take as employers, as innovators, as influencers in society, as investors? And these are the questions that we're going to be looking at in today's session. So at current, around the world, too many people are left behind. 80% of persons with disabilities live in poverty. 90% of countries have at least one law limiting women's economic empowerment. And let's consider India. According to one study, the chances of a qualified applicant with a Dalit name being invited for an interview is about 2/3 that of a high caste Hindu applicant. And the chances of an equally qualified Muslim applicant being interviewed or invited for an interview were found to be about 1/3 that of a high caste Hindu applicant. Or consider my home country of Canada, where Indigenous children are more than twice as likely to live in poverty. And when we think of the world today, are we moving in the right direction? There's been progress made, but I think there's a lot of us that feel that the world is becoming less tolerant and more polarized. If we are going to achieve the SDGs, we need to end discrimination, we need to promote equal opportunity, and we need to build bridges to foster respect and tolerance and understanding. We need to identify and dismantle the roadblocks to inclusion. So during today's session, we'll consider what we can do in our organizations, what is good practice, what is best practice. But I'd also like to challenge everybody to think about the role as an individual. How do we take our mindsets and shift them in a way that is going to enable us to achieve inclusive workplaces, inclusive societies, and an inclusive world? So to kick off the session and provide us with some food for thought, it's my great pleasure to introduce back to the stage Ms. Vibha Bakshi. And you heard in the opening plenary, Vibha's work focuses on one of the most prevalent forms of discrimination, gender inequality, and in particular, violence against women. In a 2012 study conducted in Delhi found that 92% of women reported having experienced some form of sexual violence in public spaces in their lifetime. And you heard our colleague from Oxfam earlier said that 1 in 3 women experience physical or sexual violence globally. Vibha, help us understand this epidemic, and what do we need to do to tackle it? How can we make sure that women and girls can go to school, can go to work, and can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals? So the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. No, thank you. Thank you once again, everyone, for returning. We are going to deal with a very sensitive issue. And I just want to say I am not an expert. I'm not an activist. I'm just an ordinary filmmaker that was searching for answers. Everyone here may or may not be aware, but something very horrific happened in India, and that is the brutal rape and murder of a 23-year-old medical intern. I was like anybody else. I was a daughter, sister, wife, mother that was searching for answers. Actually, my small film, Daughters of Mother India, is a cry of my conscience. There was no script. We went absolutely just waited on the ground to see what unfolded and what happened to India after that night. I am sure that night there must have been maybe even more brutal rapes that happened. But we were focused, did the country change after it was woken up from this slumber of accepting what was happening? It's a 45-minute film. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. So I'm just going to start with the open of the film, which is 5 minutes. It is slightly disturbing, but I promise by the end of the session, I will leave you with hope. So 5 minutes, and then let this just be interactive, an absolutely informal session. All right? Please, sir.
How can an ordinary bus ride home for a young medical intern and a male companion go so horribly wrong? I dread to think what happened that fatal night of December 16th, 2012, when the 23-year-old medical intern named Nirbhaya was brutally gang-raped by 6 men in that moving bus. The rapists drove the bus in circles for almost an hour as they took turns raping her. The rape turned even more horrific when a rusted rod was inserted inside her and brought out with so much force that Nirbhaya's intestines spilled out. The attackers then threw both the victims from the moving bus. Cars passed by. No one stopped. Nirbhaya and her male companion lay mauled and naked in the December cold before the police arrived. What followed the fateful night of 16th December 2012 was unimaginable.
Hours after that brutal rape of a student in Delhi, an angry nation has come together for justice. Even as we speak, the crowds are still there at India Gate, even on the road leading up to Rashtrapati Bhavan. There are students, women, men, activists, politicians, all demanding action and justice for a 23-year-old.
It shook everybody. Whoever you talked to was so horrified that how can this happen?
It happened in the middle of Delhi, under our very noses, so to say.
It was a case which could have happened to any normal Delhi girl.
Everybody was choking the streets of this city.
But everybody had tears of anger in their eyes and everybody wanted to do something.
खोदने पे जाएंगे तो अब उससे भी खराब केसेस मिलेंगे। वो एक वक्त था जब लोगों ने बोला बस, अब बस।
Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We can't take this victimization anymore.
It was an anger that came from diverse sources.
You didn't give us good laws. You did not give us good policing. You did not give us expeditious judgments.
It all sort of came together, and anger welled over, and on the streets they went.
It was winter, it was December, and they faced the water cannons, and they didn't move, and they came out day after day after day.
it is she who set the bar. She's the one who fought back when the rape happened. She's the one, when she was in hospital, who said, I want to live. So she signaled that this is not about me. It's about the fact that I've been raped, and as far as I'm concerned, I want to come back and live my life like any other young girl. So she made the change.
Yes, certain things have to be said, and it should hurt everybody. But we can either accept it, or we can say that the position that we are in, with such heavy contacts, networks, power, money, there's a lot that can be done. When I started this film, it was very easy to sensationalize the issue. We would have made bigger headlines, but there was only one thing that ran in our mind, that we will make a responsible film. Even if it means that only our family is watching, well, so be it. I decided not to go with a big network because I just felt I needed to control the vision. It shouldn't have been just for a sale of a film. It has to be able to inspire our people. The reason I am here, I'm absolutely humbled. I am very much a struggling filmmaker. But what we have seen actually unfold in the last 3 years is a movement on the ground. And we know when something so bad and so horrific and so dark happens, there is still hope. The police anywhere in the world is impossible to get through to. I was making a film for the United States government. It's the Emmy Award-winning campaign to stop violence against women. And I tried to gain access to the New York police. And the first thing they said is, we can't take a chance. Fair enough. But our Delhi police commissioner took that chance. And when he watched the film for the first time, he had not seen it. He was amongst 400 people that included activists and lawyers. I think I was more sick before the screening. I was so afraid of the reaction. But he was the first person to have given a standing ovation. I keep bringing up the word responsible because that's what we here are for. There are a lot of responsible decisions that can be taken which will impact the future. And the responsible things is, for example, I am in the police control room, the control command room. I saw so much out there. I saw remarks that were very, very hurtful. I saw callousness from the police. I edited that out of the film. And because I knew that without the police, this movement cannot move. Can we do without the police? We cannot. But I also realized that they are a mirror image of how we're thinking. When a woman comes in to the police station at 2 o'clock in the morning to complain of harassment, the only thing that the police officer is thinking, what is she doing out so late? And if she happens to be wearing a short skirt, then in a way he's thinking she got this on herself. Is that any different from how your neighbor is thinking? Or a family member is thinking? And that was our biggest revelation while we were editing, that they are a mirror image of how we are thinking, and that in this fight, there are no heroes and there are no villains. We are in this together. The question that comes to everybody is, you must have daughters. I don't. I am a mother of 2 sons. And I know how important a role I play in being either the problem or the solution. The problem, it's not only in India, it's in many, many countries, that we have given our sons an unnecessary sense of entitlement. Actually, they don't know the meaning of no. And in many places, it's not the sun that is born, it's the sun that has risen. And that is a problem. I mean, I remember when I was getting my sonography done, my first child was born in New York, the second was here, and I told the doctor, I said, please, can you just tell me, because it'll be easier to do the nursery, so I can recycle stuff. And she said, no, please don't tell me it's people like us that don't do it. She actually denied telling me the sex of the child because she said, it is people like you who commit the feticide. And I was shocked. And that's when I realized, when we did a lot of screenings, that the maximum feticide, female feticide, happens in the most expensive areas because they're looking for the heir. So who are we to point fingers? Why not bring in the change from where we are? I was screening with the US consulate in Mumbai, and somebody said, but it's so overwhelming, the problem. Where do we start from? And I said, we start right here. We start from our homes. We start from that table, the local network India table, and we go to our friends. And if you were able to change one person, that person will change another. And that's enough. We don't have to change the world. We just have to change who is around us. As I said, I am a struggling filmmaker. In the documentary world, you will always struggle. We had to literally put out a bowl in order to complete the film. We had the best of Bollywood work on it because of the issue. Distribution was impossible unless I had a big Bollywood star who came in and said, I embrace the issue. We couldn't afford that star. I remember one of my screenings, we held it at the most prestigious avenue in Mumbai, the Tata Theatre, but we had no funds for any bottles of water. We were like, so be it. Nobody gets water, nobody gets anything. That day, I had 400 of the senior most cops turn up for the screening, including the police commissioner of Mumbai and the chief of anti-terror. And that's when we said, you have used your position correctly. You all here, the world is your limit. You can do whatever you want to bring up change. It may cause strife, but it is worth it. When we screened at one of the biggest US investment banks, the question was, we cannot screen a film on rape. And I said, why? You tell me, I want to help you. They said, no, let's use the word empowerment. I said, but it is a rape film. And you know what? Somebody in New York took that decision, and the film has been screening. Because it was the biggest investment bank in the world, 30 other banks screened. This is the power that you all hold. Make one right decision, and others will follow. But somebody has to make that decision. And I will show you now a 4-minute clip on how a very, very small film with no backing, no financial support, and absolutely no celebrity behind them, what happened to it.
It's a privilege for us to host this film this evening, directed by Vibha Bakshi, which has received many awards. At one level, it touches upon a burning and difficult issue, something which has risen to social and national prominence in India.
72 hours after that brutal rape of a student in Delhi, an angry nation has come together for justice. There are students, women, men, activists, politicians, all demanding action and justice for a 23-year-old.
Enough is enough. We can't take this victimization anymore.
It was winter, it was December, and they faced the water cannons.
I had never seen any country in the world react to a gender crime the way we did.
We had gained access to the police control and command room for the first time in the history of the police.
I'm not saying that overnight my force has become 100% sympathetic. It will take time, but over a period of time, it has to change.
If this is what a film can do, we have a task to do. My fellow brother and sister police officers out here, that society want us to be sensitive and they want us to have a zero tolerance policy towards crime against women.
As head of Mumbai Police, today, women's security is priority one.
की प्रोड्यूसर को बहुत कांग्रेचुलेट कर रहा हूं कि उन्होंने इतनी अच्छी, इतने सशक्त तरीके से मूवी को प्रेजेंट किया.
डॉटर ऑफ मदर इंडिया एक ऐसी चिंगारी है जो हर भारतीय के दिल में जलनी चाहिए.
More than a documentary, Daughters of Mother India has become a movement to encourage change. It's a movie that searches for answers to many questions.
We could work out a whole process where take this across to the 153 schools of the Archdiocese of Bombay, that it provokes thought and provokes change.
No more crime against women. मंजूर नहीं. मंजूर नहीं. मंजूर नहीं. मंजूर नहीं.
As a stakeholder of society, I will cling on to hope.
Daughters of Mother India for explicitly and determinantly turning the spotlight on a burning issue.
what worked? We did not put anybody down. I have met incredible men who have taken this movement forward, starting from my husband, who I think must have unleashed every contact that he knew in order to gain access to all the people who are in the film. Right through, it is people who took this forward. And this is what I feel. You put anybody down. You put the men down. You put anyone, it could be the police, it could be the men, it does nothing. Why not focus on those people who are trying to bring in change? The issue of gender violence or bias is not an India issue. It's a global issue. But how do we bring everybody together? And that is when you focus on the heroes who are trying to bring in change. We just saw miracles happen every day. Now that we've been able to garner this kind of support, we said we cannot stop. And the movement has to be taken to the next level. And this time, we want the men to talk. For those who don't know India, the north is known, the north part of India, including Delhi, is known for a lot of gender biases. Violence is more rampant here than it is in any other part of India. Not to generalize, but it is more. We decided to go to a state called Haryana, and even the people who are from India, or my friends, were a bit shocked that do not go in there unless you have protection, because they don't know what it is to interact with another woman eye to eye, because all the women are covered. And here it was, I arrived in Haryana with 8 other members from the crew who were all male. Just looking at that sight of having one woman with 8 members was horrifying for them. I mean, I remember we were staying in these little, we've gone into the most rural part of Haryana, and we were staying in these motels on the highway. They were about maybe $7 a night. I think they charged us 7, I think it was 5. They charged us 7 looking at us. It was these kind of motel stops, and I'm like, what is this poor man going to think about me? I walk in with 8 men from the crew. I think shooting in Haryana was the hardest, because I knew that the men were having a lot of problem, and they had never seen anything like this. And it's here. You know, when you go shooting, suddenly Google Map loses, even Google Map loses its sense of direction. That's how interior we went. And it's here that I found a farmer who married a gang rape survivor. Arranged marriage. And I said, we will start our story from here. I spent 7 months filming, and we have found the heroes who are going to set an example for the rest of the world to follow, that if they can change, what are we doing about it? So I'm going to show you, it's still on the editing floor. It's not a trailer. It's actually not even a teaser. It's something that I've cut specially for all of you. So please excuse the editing, but take a glimpse of what I saw.
was a shocking case when Jitendra and the victim came to me.
ऐसी लड़की की जिसके सपने थे उसको इतनी दरिंदगी से उन्होंने उसको बर्बाद किया है, ये मैं शब्दों में बयान नहीं कर सकता.
A poor girl from a rural background comes to a big city, and for the internship somebody promises, and she's raped, and she's raped again, and she's raped again and again and again.
जब इनका रिश्ता तय हो गया तो उसके बाद हम देखने गए, इन्होंने हाथ जोड़ के विनती की कि मैं शादी वादी नहीं करना चाहती, मेरे साथ तो बहुत बुरा हुआ है और मैं आपके काबिल नहीं हूँ. मैंने तभी कहा कि रिश्ता भी आपसे करूँगा और न्याय भी आपको दिलाऊंगा.
एक बार तालियों से स्वागत कीजिए दादा बलजीत, आपके बीच में रखवाले की शान.
The Khap Panchayat, these are the local bodies, self-government. In this region of India, we have caste system. So one dominant caste, they have different clans. So they form a particular Khap. They take certain decision and then sometime even government accepts it. Issues relating to marital disputes, these are resolved by these bodies very amicably. That is accepted by clans in that particular Khap.
जिस घर में पढ़ी लिखी लड़की होगी तो उस घर का माहौल भी चेंज हो जाता है.
जब मेरे घर में बेटी हुई, नर्सिस को बुला के मैंने कहा कि 2000 रुपए हैं, ये आप रखो और कहना कि बीबीपुर के सरपंच के यहाँ बेटी पैदा हुई है. तो वो नर्सिस बोली अगर लड़का होता तो हम इससे भी ज्यादा ले लेते, लेकिन आप है ना कम पैसे दे दो. बेटी का पिता बना तो सोसाइटी ने मुझे महसूस करवाया.
ये साइकी पढ़े लिखे वर्ग में भी है, ये साइकी ट्रेडिशनल में भी है. इस साइकी को बदलना पड़ेगा.
घरों में जो युवा है ना, वो ये कहीं ये काम मैं कर सकता हूँ तो मेरी बहन भी कर सकती है. जबकि वो बेटी नाम कर सकती है, वो बेटी सब कुछ कर सकती है. उस बेटे से 50% सही, 20% सही कम से कम दे के तो देखो उसको.
The man come forward if they understand that whatever freedom they have, she is equally entitled for that freedom. If the same freedom is guaranteed to her by the Constitution.
हमने डिमांड की कि जो भ्रूण हत्याएं करते हैं उन पर 302 का मुकदमा दर्ज होना चाहिए. खाप लीडर के सामने महिलाएं बोली, वो इतिहास में पहली बार हुआ. तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि मेरी लाइफ का शायद यही मिशन है और मुझे लगातार ऐसा ही करता रहना चाहिए.
जब तक ना लड़का होता था तब तक आदमी इंतजार करता था कि चलो अब की बार लड़का हो जाएगा. अब क्या है जिसके 2 लड़की भी हो जाए तो भी सोचा चल बस बहुत है.
ये लड़कों को इग्नोर करके लड़कियों पे आ जाओ, आपको पता लग जाएगा कि लड़कियां क्या है.
पहले बेटी को बचाओ, फिर भगवान को मनाओ.
एक मनुष्यता की दृष्टि से हमें देखना चाहिए. ये यदि यूथ सोचेगा तो मुझे लगता है कि इसमें से समाधान निकलेगा. अगर ये मेरी पत्नी ना होती तब भी अगर मुझे मेरे पास एक ऐसे सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता की हैसियत से मेरे पास आती तब भी मैं इसको न्याय दिलाता.
इनका सपना है कि जज बनूं मैं. अब इन्होंने मेरे लिए इतना किया है तो इनका एक सपना वो तो मैं पूरा कर ही सकती हूँ.
Sorry for the non-Hindi speaking folks here. I hope you could see the subtitles. So she has unveiled as a rape survivor because it was their decision, the shame is not hers. And she said, I will give the strength to the other women to come forward, which is a huge, huge step. I mean, for those who may have missed the translation, she is going into, she's enrolled herself in a law program because the men who committed the act, they are the landlord's sons. And no lawyer is willing to stand by her. And in fact, when we went, she's given her court trial and identified 8 men raped her. 6 of them were identified. I had to go with police protection. And actually, I got another layer on because I was actually afraid that in case the police got bought out, I could get bumped off. And so I had a plan B also in place. But this is what it is. That she is now going to go to court and fight her own case. And these are the men who we found in the darkest corners. The village chief, who once his daughter's born, the nurses refused to accept the money, saying we would have only done it if it was a boy. Even in the biggest and the fanciest hospitals in India, when a son is born, the tipping is tenfold. And when it's a daughter, you can get away with no tipping. These are the realities. But change will happen. We all need to question whatever is happening around us. I remember at one of the screenings, there were only corporates. We had about 35 corporates there. And we had, very, very big industrialists who were there. And one of them came and told me, he said, I have come out with the firm belief that there will be no difference shown to my son and my daughter, and she will now be included in the business. And I said, the screening was worth it. You never know where the change is, and I don't know what will happen here, but I know a lot can happen. I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm open to questions. As I said, I'm just reporting from the ground on what I see. I could just be like any one of you, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And guess what? It says time up.
Yeah, you did. It was perfect.
Okay.
No, but I think let's take one question, and then we can return. I'd very much like you to be part of the conversation that's going to continue with the audience. But is there a question for Vibha?
Be kind. Easy question.
So, gentleman at the back here. And if you don't mind just introducing yourself as well.
Okay, my name is Mohammed Balarabe. I think this is a global problem. It's not an Indian problem. It's everywhere. Just want to know your decision not to put down anybody and how you believe that propelled the impact you wanted to have. But don't you think it would have given even more impact if you had shown the culprits, or at least talked about the culprits and the punishment that went out to them, just so that it acts as a deterrent?
I'm so glad you brought this question up. Actually, we addressed everything in the film. I have a 5-year-old who is gang raped. It could not be more disturbing than that. I mean, whenever there's a last shot in my film where the father is holding her and she's had 9 reconstructive surgeries. I must have seen that shot 200 times, and I cry each time. Because that father-daughter bond at that moment was just so precious. We addressed everything in the film, head on. The issues are there. The only thing we did was, this can go anywhere. It's an issue that's very easy to sensationalize. It's all about the reporting, right? It's when you read in the newspaper, 3-year-olds, genitals mutilated, whatever. It's a matter of how do we report it. Why not say, instead of talking about the 3-year-old, why not talk about the rapist as the headline? The rapist has raped a 3-year-old, instead of saying a 3-year-old has been raped. It's just the way you put it. So I'm glad you brought it up. We went head on. The only people we did not include in our film were any politicians, because, today they're there, tomorrow they're not there. We wanted to have a longer shelf value for the film. And we portrayed the situation the way it could. With respect to the police, I focused on the good guys, because everyone knows what's out there. But this gave the good guys the strength to continue. But otherwise, please, the film is available on Netflix worldwide. It's out there for you to see.
Thank you so much, Vibha. And I think, I said at the beginning, it's all about identifying and dismantling barriers to inclusion. And I think it's right to say that this film is doing exactly that, and as an individual, you're doing exactly that. So thank you very much for being here.
And Lauren, I'm just going to say one thing.
Yeah.
I addressed this in New York. There was a film that came out, there was a BBC film that came out that got banned. What I say is, if you use a rapist's point of view and label every man there as a man who thinks like the rapist, it is very wrong. I remember my husband, who's, you know, a very respected man in the private equity business. He was in New York right after the film release, and he said, Vibha, I swear everybody's looking at me as though I'm a rapist. That is wrong. I went right after the National Award, I went to New York, and I was screening at the New York Film Festival. And I looked at the audience, and I said, I make films for HBO. You all have an issue on race. What if I interviewed a white cop who's killed a black cop, and he says he deserved to die? Should I label all of you as racist? And there was pin drop silence. And I said, it does nothing for anyone here. It does nothing for the white people, and it does nothing for the black people. You've left them with nothing but more hate. And that is, to address your question, is do whatever you do, but do it in a responsible manner. And without hope, you're left with nothing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vibha. Thank you very much.